Great. I'll ask Minister Ciaran to address us.
Okay, good morning, ladies and the few gentlemen I see down there. I think we need to redress that imbalance as well, so we do, in the whole area of education. I mean, when on the occasion that I do address gatherings of teachers as well, that imbalance exists, and certainly we should look to see how we can convince more of my own gender to get involved in the area of education. I'm delighted to be able to join you here in the Galway Bay Hotel on a beautiful sunny morning, looking out onto Galway Bay and the beautiful Burren Mountains across the bay, for the annual ALO forum. And the forum today, you're discussing the whole subject of initial assessment, what works and what doesn't work in the context of literacy and numeracy for adults. I want to thank Inez Bailey for her very, very kind invitation to address you this morning, and indeed to the hard-working staff of NALA who have made the event this morning come into being. I want to open today's address by extending my sincere thanks to every one of you for all the hard work, for all the dedication you show on a daily basis in the delivery, the management and the promotion of adult literacy services all over Ireland. The value of adult basic education for families, for communities and for our country cannot be overstated. And improving adult literacy levels remains a priority for this government. And it's well recognised that the unemployment that affects those with low skills in the areas of literacy and numeracy, it affects them far more seriously than it does any other group in society. Higher levels of skills are a requirement for the 21st century labour market, and it's a labour market that's constantly innovating and changing all of the time. In fact, I was just reading a piece in a magazine on the way home. I was in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia up until yesterday morning, trying to convince more international students to come and study and live with us. A piece in the magazine that by 2030, half of the careers that will exist in 2030 don't exist now. So you have a jobs market and a labour market that's constantly changing and evolving, much more so than it did maybe perhaps 20 or 30 years ago. And our focus, therefore, has to remain on the low-qualified and the low-skilled if we are to succeed in bringing everyone in Irish society on that journey towards a new, exciting and indeed innovative future. Adult literacy services in Ireland have grown at a tremendous pace throughout the VEC sector over the last 10 years, both in terms of the funding provision and indeed, more specifically, in the numbers participating in programmes. Participant numbers in adult literacy have reached just last year a very large figure of 57,000 people. And I'm delighted to have been able to maintain the funding levels for adult literacy in the region of €30 million over the past number of years, despite the very, very challenging economic times we're experiencing at the moment. And you, as adult literacy organisers, have played a central role in coordinating and in managing adult literacy and basic skills services for many, many years. And you continue not alone to be the coordinators and the deliverers of that, but you also are a very important voice for learners, and you are to the forefront in the expansion and the development of our adult literacy services. And this annual forum provides you with the opportunity to discuss areas of interest, perhaps areas of challenge, areas where we need to innovate and create new opportunity. And the theme of this year's conference, the initial assessment, what works, is a very, very opportune one. Because at this point in time, and I was just saying to Inez when I met her earlier on, I've had in the last 2 years as Minister for Training and Skills 2 opportunities to sit down in a hotel in Dublin and meet adult learners, the people that you're supporting and interacting with on a daily basis. I've met people who are about to engage in the learning process, those who are in the middle of the learning process, and those who have completed that learning process. And for them, for a lot of them, the journey has been a very, very challenging one. And the initial assessment process for them is also a very, very important part of the process, because many of them said to me how challenged they felt, how fearful they felt of getting involved, re-engaging and reconnecting with the education system. So that initial assessment piece is very, very important indeed. And it's a necessary first step in identifying learner needs, and ensuring, and this is very important, the learner is placed in the appropriate level of provision in the right environment at the particular level within our educational system that is appropriate to their needs at a particular point in time. So I'm aware that there are various practices in this area within VEC Adult Literacy Services, and while VECs are free to select and adapt their own initial assessment tool, this year's forum is providing you with the opportunity to listen to the views from the national and international experts in this field. And the workshops yesterday also provided you with the opportunity to discuss the wide variety of tools and materials that are used. And I've no doubt that between yesterday and today, the sharing of views, the sharing of experiences, the sharing of best practices will ultimately be of great benefit to learners and the quality of the service that we are providing to them. And it's essential that we optimise our limited resources, and the use of appropriate initial assessment tools is a major critical element in that regard. The department is continually updating and improving the way we do our business, as we should. And my department issued adult literacy operational guidelines for the first time in early 2012. And these guidelines were drafted in collaboration and cooperation with stakeholders, including the Adult Literacy Organisers Association. And the further education and training sector, as you know, is on the cusp of major change, and it's important that there are clear guidelines in place for the Adult Literacy Service. As you're all aware, SOLACE will be the new Further Education and Training Authority with responsibility for both further education and training provision. And the draft legislation for SOLACE, thankfully now it's been quite a tortuous process, but the legislation has been approved by the Cabinet. It's planned to have it passed through all stages of the Oireachtas before the summer. And the VECs, which includes many of you here today, and FÁS local services are also amalgamating under the new Education and Training Board structure. And the legislation providing for that is also at an advanced stage, and again will be completed before the summer. So, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your support for this necessary reform of our further education and training sectors. The Adult Literacy Organisers Association too has been preparing for these changes and produced a document entitled Adult Literacy and Basic Skills in a Changing Sector, which I was delighted to launch at the IVA Congress in Cavan last September. And this document identifies and sets out in a concise format 7 key issues that have to be considered as part of an integrated adult literacy provision under the new ETB structure. The major reform underway at the moment of the education and training sectors is, there's no question about it, going to be challenging for all of us, for staff, for management and for everybody involved in further education and training in the future. But we have to work together to overcome these initial challenges and build a world-class integrated further education and training system that we can all be very, very proud of, and that will provide access to all learners, irrespective of their skill levels, to avail of programmes that are suitable for them and that are beneficial to them. And to achieve this, we must make sure that we have the most relevant and up-to-date data to ensure the right decisions about policy and implementation are being made. And in terms of adult literacy, Ireland's participation in the OECD programme for the International Assessment of Adult Competencies, PIAC, which we all know it by, will provide us with valuable data with which to inform our future policy. And thankfully, because it's always important that you have a very high response rate to ensure that the data is accurate and representative, the survey had a very, very high response rate in Ireland with almost 6,000 surveys completed, which is well in excess of the target of 5,000 that we set for ourselves. And the OECD is due to publish that report sometime, I gather, in October, and I am sure that all of you will be very, very interested in the results of that, and we'll be certainly guided by the results of that as we prepare the vision and the strategy for the future. We'll shortly be hearing from Mary Kett, the former BTEI National Coordinator, who was commissioned by County Dublin VEC to conduct a review of adult literacy services, and which was supported by my department. And the report is currently being reviewed by my department, and I have no doubt that that review and the recommendations contained within it will further enhance adult literacy services over the next few years, and the intention is that that review will be published very shortly indeed. I want to thank the adult literacy organisers for your hard work and your dedication towards the development of an extensive literacy service in this country. I also want to thank the staff of NALA for their continued commitment to the promotion of adult literacy. We are all involved, every one of us, for the same reason: to drive the development of a robust, flexible and, most importantly, a high-quality adult literacy service that suits everybody, but in particular the low-skilled, the disadvantaged and the hard-to-reach. We want to give all of our people opportunities to make the most of themselves and contribute to our country's social and economic development. And as Kofi Annan once said, literacy is the road to human progress and the means through which every man, woman and child can realise his or her full potential. Finally, I want to wish you well in your deliberations here today, and I look forward to working with you for many, many years to come. The work that we're doing is exceptionally valuable and will play a major role in developing an inclusive and successful Ireland for the future. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Minister. And if you have any questions or queries or anything like that, we do have Majella here with us, so that the things that we can discuss later on at the panel session, anything that the Minister has brought up, we can deal with it later on, or we'll do our best to deal with it later on in his absence. So if that's okay.